It's the Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. For this new season we're about to enter, the Knicks taking no short, just like winter.
New York, New York.
New York be about the Knicks, huh?
But the best thing about New York City is
K-N-I-C-K-S.
Everybody say go New York, go New York, go!
Go New York, go New York, go!
Hey everybody, welcome to the New York Knicks podcast, episode 644. I just wanted to open with a clip of an interview with Tibbs.
He's getting fouled. He's getting fouled. He's getting fouled. He's getting fouled.
That's it. That sums up this week.
That was a YouTube short by, do you have the user, just to plug the user?
As a YouTube short by user.
He's getting fouled. He's getting fouled.
No.
He's getting fouled.
Bad Bobby
He's getting
Clips.
fouled. He's getting fouled.
Okay.
Bad Bobby
cool.
Clips, thank you.
Okay, yeah, that was awesome. Apparently, the league has changed the rules that they've decided Jalen Brunson is a foul merchant, and it no longer counts when you beat the crap out of him. And it no longer counts in general, whatever Bam Adebayo does, because he's just an asshole, and he's allowed to be an asshole.
I just found it weird that Windhorst went on national TV to say Brunson's a foul merchant when he hasn't done that for players like Harden, who made a career out of it. I feel like, I don't want to be a conspiracy guy, but I've never seen a team have so many lopsided calls like on a game-to-game basis. It feels more than, I feel like it's statistically impossible to have this many lopsidedly called games away from your favor. Like something's going on.
Yeah, it doesn't, something seems off.
And you could
the
say, so-and-so had a bad shooting night, or they missed a bunch of free throws another night, which is true, but you shouldn't have to be up 5 to 10 points a game every single game just in case the refs want to play games.
So on Twitter, user Nick Gravgana, he gave us he posted a picture of a post from the Strickland where it said Jalen Brunson this season has 1,466 field goal attempts, 430 free throw attempts, in 70 games played. Jimmy Butler has only played 53 games. He has 708 field goal attempts, so much less. How many free throw attempts do you think he has? He has 413 free throw attempts. In 17 less games, he shot almost as many free throws as Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen Brunson is the foul merchant, and Jimmy Butler is just an all-star that, if anything, the refs could give him more calls.
It's pretty wild. I don't even know. This week, it was just the most aggravating week, I think, in a long time.
I just looking at so I'm looking at the rankings for free throw attempts in the NBA.
Okay.
The league leader was Joel Embiid, who's been out for a while, but averaging almost 12 free throws a game. Mm-hmm. He's not a foul merchant.
No.
Not a free throw merchant. Not at all.
No.
He's averaging one more free throw than the guy in second place. He's averaging almost 3 more free throws than the guy in third place. Actually, 3 more free throws than the guy in third place.
Embiid never
Second
flops either. Never.
Never flops. Not Mr. I'm having an MVP season, and it had nothing to do with the refs making it illegal to guard me. Mm-hmm. Giannis, who's amazing, and obviously amazing, and he gets fouled, whatever. He's averaging 10.9. Number 3 is Luka at 8.8. Should the top 2 guys have such an insanely high, like 2 to 3 extra free throws a game seem a lot for the top 2 guys over the number 3 guy?
It does. Seems like quite a bit amount.
SGA, rising all-star, 8.6 free throws a game. Not a free throw merchant. Jimmy Butler's 5th. Trae Young, who I guess no one would say he's not a free throw merchant. He's number 6. Where is Jalen Brunson? Where's Jalen Brunson? What number do you think he is on this list?
I don't know how you didn't get to him already, since he's a free throw merchant.
He's a free throw. He is the NBA has changed their rules just because of what Jalen Brunson is doing. Mm-hmm. And somehow he is behind Jaren Jackson for 18th.
18th.
18th. Somehow, though, he's not it's really weird. It's really weird how he's a free throw merchant and other guy. So Jalen Brunson is averaging 6.1 free throws per game. He is not a free throw merchant. Joel Embiid is averaging twice as many free throws a game. Giannis is averaging almost twice as many a game. Brunson is what you need to change the rules for.
It's wild. It's wild.
I get like a guy like Giannis maybe gets a little more. Maybe Giannis or Embiid get maybe because they're big guys, they're hard to guard. Maybe there's a few more fouls on them. Guys like
Well, they're
like a
also
Shack on them.
yeah bad at free throws, so I'm sure they get fouled on
Right, and I'm
purpose a few
sure-
times. That's fine.
I'm sure the Knicks starting point guard, who's barely 6 foot tall, I'm sure he's not getting hit on every play. It's totally fine. It's okay. Like NBA, go F yourself. You guys, whatever. Like Jay and I were talking before the show. I don't believe in many conspiracies, but I'll accept two conspiracies in life. I think conspiracy number one, Epstein didn't hang himself, and conspiracy number two, the NBA hates the Knicks.
Yeah, I didn't want to be like this, but this last week is like it's really hard to justify. It's really hard to think it's any other way. Wemby took the same amount of free throws as the entire Knicks team, and he's not like like a down low bruiser where you're fouling. There was like touch fouls and like I don't know. It was pretty garbage.
Yeah, there are some ridiculous ones at the end of the game against towards the end of the game against the Thunder. Brunson clearly got fouled on the way to putting the Knicks up by 1 with like a couple seconds left to go, and SGA won the game. But you're like, I don't know, why didn't you give Brunson the and 1 when he got clobbered making that shot?
Or 2 plays before that, when Hart got his arm grabbed and he missed the layup, that was a no call as well.
No call. Why don't you know what? SGA went for the free throw. The Knicks should have punched him in the face and go, well, "That's the same thing. Where you can't call that. You didn't call it against us."
And just check guys when they go up for a layup. Apparently,
Yeah,
it's
just
allowed now.
play like it's as if the NBA is like, we are so mad at the Knicks for the '90s that we are just or the refs are just holding against the Knicks going forward. And you'd think like New York, you'd want New York to be a big market in the NBA, but I think the NBA is like the New York Knicks fans will just watch. It doesn't matter, guys. We'll go to the game. It doesn't matter. Let's screw them. We just don't want the Knicks to be good.
I don't even know. I was so angry after the Spurs game. I couldn't sleep for like hours. It was just
It's
just
been a
felt so
rough-
wrong.
It's been a rough last 3 games. The Heat game sucked. Brunson did not have a great game, but he also was getting beat up also. And then you hear like the media talking about how like national media going like, well, I mean like Brunson, the Knicks look gassed. Clearly, Tibbs is running these guys to the ground. Same old Tibbs. Dude, our 2 of our best 3 players are injured, out potentially for the rest of the season. What do you want us to do?
It's not even like just those 2. I mean, iHeart missed time. Mitch missed 50 games. Like, there's been a lot of guys out of this lineup.
Everyone's banged up. The Knicks are trying to like get a top, like trying to avoid the play-in, trying to get like ideally a 4 or 3 seed. They're undermanned. They're winning a ton of games. Their defense has been awesome throughout March. It's insane.
Speaking of guys banged up, Hart is now questionable for next game
Yes.
with a sprained wrist. Hart and Mitch.
Getting better all the time with the Knicks. It is. Last week, I don't know why I said I'm not worried about being the play-in. It looks like the Knicks are it's just a matter of them being a top 6 seed. Like worst case they'll be the 6th seed, and now the Knicks could fall out of the 6th seed. It's been a rough week. Cobra wrote pointed out that Hart and Mitch are out or potentially out. How are you feeling about like the Knicks minutes? Do you blame Tibbs for this, or what do you blame?
No, they have a bunch of guys injured, and some of the bench guys weren't performing. And we say this every week. Like, when everybody's healthy, Tibbs has a perfectly normal rotation.
I mean, if you look at the team right now, first of all, it's hard for Leon Rose to be prepared for 2 of their 3 best players to be out. He made a trade. Boggs and Bogdanovich and Burks have not been very good. You can't
Bogdanovich did have a
Gibson-
good game against Miami.
He did have a good game with Miami, yes. And maybe that's a sign of good things to come, but you can't expect him to play Burks and Bogdanovich major minutes. and the rest of the bench is just ass. It's just like a Toppin, whatever his name is, Jeffries, Shake Milton, Charlie Brown. There is not much there at the end of the bench.
Precious.
You could blame. What do you say?
Precious.
Oh, Precious. I wasn't knocking Precious. The guys that aren't playing, I meant.
Oh, okay.
Like the guys, like
Oh yeah, if you're
would
saying
be-
guys are playing too many minutes, yeah, the other guys that aren't playing should not be playing.
right. The Knicks 11 through 15 should never be on. If you're removing OG and Randall from the equation, the Knicks 11 through 15 just they're not guys you'd ever put on the court if you're trying to win a game.
Right.
I mean, nothing. They're all young players, and maybe they can develop, but they're nowhere near the stage. They are just G leaguers that are on the roster.
So iHeart and Mitch combined for I think 28 minutes against Miami. And do you think that's because Bogdanovich was playing good and they were going small ball, or Tibbs is like, I don't want Bam injuring our centers again. Let's just have them nowhere near Bam.
How does Bam get away with the shit he does?
I don't know.
Like tripping guys, and it's an illegal screen almost every time he sets a screen.
He does what Draymond does, where he looks away from what he's doing and tries to pretend it's an accident, but it happens like 5 times a game, so it can't possibly be an accident.
There are tons of clips out there. If you just look online of him doing this crap, how are the refs not aware and like looking at, like, especially looking out for it? The way the refs would look out for the Trae Young bullshit, like foul merchant crap, or Jalen Brunson, I guess, they should be on the lookout for the crap Bam does. He does it like he's known to do this crap.
I found a highlight reel of Bam injuring Knicks, and it was just the Miami series in the playoffs last year, and it was like 2 minutes long.
It's insane. He always does is stick his knee out, trip guys. He's a dirty player. The Heat are a dirty team. Whatever. But it's very, very frustrating.
So there's not much time left in the season now.
Not much.
I just want the season to be over, to be honest.
I mean, obviously, no, you want the playoffs to start. You don't want the season to be over.
Correct. I want the
Yes,
regular
it's just-
season to be over. I don't want it anymore.
The 9 games left are really, it's not an easy path going forward.
There's still 9 left.
Sorry, not 9. 7? Wait, it is,
7. There's 7 games left.
The 7 games left, yes. The 7 games left. It's Sacramento, Chicago, Milwaukee, Chicago, Boston, Brooklyn, Chicago.
A lot of Chicago.
I mean, Brooklyn's an easy win. Chicago's not that easy of a win to begin with, and you're playing them 3 times in a week and a half. Like,
And they're fighting for playing.
yeah, you might get an easy game against Boston if Boston's just like, we need to rest now.
Yeah,
Though I think Boston will rest the day after they play the Knicks.
of course.
Did you see that? OKC, the game after they play the Knicks, everyone's injured. Everyone's out.
Mhm.
SGA's out. Jalen Williams are both out. We're both out Tuesday night.
Teams always just play their full roster for the Knicks. Doesn't matter how long a guy's out. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. So the Knicks are not up on the 7th seed by that much. And it's also like, so I guess Shaq was quoted as saying, if the Knicks play Orlando, Orlando will sweep them in the first round.
Okay, come on.
And obviously Shaq would say that being he's a former Orlando Magic. But
That's
it's
just
like-
ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. But like, if the Knicks don't get OG and Randall back, the Knicks aren't being swept. But it's tough for the Knicks to beat anyone in the first round if they don't have their guys back.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take the second and third best guy off of any team, and they're probably losing in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, look at the standing. The Celtics. Tatum's the best guy on the team. If you remove Jaylen Brown and you removed Porzingis, Celtics aren't going very far. Bucks, you remove their second and third best players.
Damon
Uh,
Middleton, they're probably getting swept in the first round.
Yeah, look at the other like Denver. I mean, Jokic is great, but if you remove
Murray,
Murray and you remove
Porter.
Porter or I guess Porter being the third best player.
Yeah, Porter or Gordon.
Gordon. Either way, like they would struggle. I know Minnesota's without Towns, and that's a big guy to lose.
Yeah.
If you have 2 guys gone, they're not going anywhere. Like no one can overcome this.
Yeah,
You can
especially when
overcome
it's
one
also
guy being out, but not 2.
especially when it's also the best defender.
Yeah, like this is what made the team so good. So it's like, so the latest news basically news on Randall is it's very vague. They just have said he may be back at some point when he's ready to handle when he's ready to handle the contact, or he thinks he's ready. Like it's such a vague statement where you're not sure if it's physical or mental or what's going on.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, he's going to need surgery.
Yes.
He did not get surgery because their thinking was that he would heal enough to be able to play through the pain for the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay. And now it seems like that may or may not happen.
Yes.
So
well,
he
I
may
guess
miss the
there's-
playoffs and get surgery, like the worst case
Yes.
scenario.
Right. Well, I mean, I assume he'd be back for early in the season.
Yeah, but then we have to wait another 82 games to see what happens. And this whole, like, even if he comes back now, it's like he's not going to be 100%. And then we're going to have all these nerds saying that Randall sucks in the playoffs when he's, like, clearly injured. It's just very frustrating.
So I think there's a statement by Begley who said there are some people that felt that Randall should have had surgery right when it happened, and then maybe he's back at this point. I feel like that's an unfair statement because chances are if he had the surgery right when it happened, at best when the playoffs start, he's still the chances of him being back were pretty slim either way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the actual surgery, but like I imagine if you have shoulder surgery, you're not back on the court 2 months later, or else the Knicks would have done the surgery.
Right, right.
Um,
And then
yeah,
OG
I don't know.
OG is also just wait and see if it heals.
Yeah, it's not great. These guys aren't probably coming back.
Cool. So that's
Yeah.
our show for today. I mean, I don't even know what else to say at this point. Like, they're fighting their hearts out. They're competitive every game. They got screwed by the refs a couple times. They're shorthanded. They're getting tired and they're getting banged up. And I feel like the next 2 weeks is going to be the same.
Yeah, it doesn't seem how it gets better because the Knicks, like, going into next season, you would hope the Knicks would have in theory, they'd have to have more. Like the two paths this offseason are trying to make another swing a big trade, or you just bring everyone back with some extra reinforcements. And I think extra reinforcements would mean using your draft picks to fill out your roster instead of like having 11 through 15 being guys that don't deserve to be in the NBA.
Yeah, so they would have 2 mid-round draft picks.
Like 2 picks in the early 20s.
Yeah, so I would say bring everybody back, use those 2 draft picks, and run it back because I still think healthy this team, and they're young enough where it's like you wait till another season, like nobody's over 30 still in the rotation.
Oh, here's the quote I wanted to find on Julius. This is from Tibbs. He said he's just got to keep working every day till he gets to the point where he feels confident he can take contact he's accustomed to. We don't want him to change his style of play. Just keep doing what you're doing. You have to have a belief that it will turn, which I do. Maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's the day after. Who knows when it is? Work out, do your rehab, try to strengthen your shoulder as much as you can. Go from there. Also, this is something that where, like, apparently before surgery, he can very easily re-injure this.
Did you see the interview with Anthony Davis where he said he played with this for 3 years?
No. What?
Yeah, he said some days you're fine, sometimes you're fine for a month, and then it'll just come back, and then it's not fine for a week or two, and it just goes back and forth like that. It's like day to day, and you never know when it's going to flare up, and it is what it is.
He played with it for 3 years without getting surgery?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That doesn't even make any sense. Randall can barely get on the court, and Anthony Davis is like, yeah, every once in a while my broken shoulder flares up.
Well, I mean, if you look at Anthony Davis's missed games, it's not like he didn't
he
miss
missed
a
a
lot
lot
of games.
Yeah, that's fair. I with the fact that Randall does not play great when he's injured, no matter what he does, if he plays, people will be like, "Oh, he sucks now. He's not playing well in the playoffs." You'd be like, "Well, he's massively injured." And they'd be like, "Well, he should have played then."
Yeah. On the other hand, they're like, I don't want to see Burks or Bogdanovich. And it's like, well, you got to pick one. Pick your poison.
Yeah, I don't know if you like in theory you could be like, well, Randall maybe will play limited minutes, like 15 minutes a game. I don't know if Randall is Randall if he plays 15 minutes a game.
Yeah. This sucks.
And
This just
and
sucks.
OG, the theory is that basically the Knicks are basically going to only bring the Knicks will bring him back out for the last like 2 games of the regular season, just to give him a little bit of a run before. But they don't want to have him come back and then be out again. So
Yeah.
bring him back at the exact end of the season, let him have 1 or 2 warm-up games, and just go right to the playoffs.
Okay. So like a week and a half from now.
Neither one will be back. Oh my god, neither one's gonna be back. Neither one's gonna be back, and someone new will be out for like Josh Hart will be out also. And then the Knicks will lose in the first round. It'll be a 6-game series, and people will be like, Tibbs sucks. Fire him. We got to rebuild.
Or the narrative like, Brunson needs more help. It's like, yeah, they're in suits on the bench. There's your help.
We talked about this last show a little bit, but the projection was basically OG would be seeking a $40 million a year contract. OG comes to you and he's like, hey, I want $40 million a year. Knicks are like, yeah, as long as you can pass the medical exam. He's like, nope, I'm injured, can't pass it. Okay, here's your contract.
I wouldn't feel comfortable with more than 30.
I mean, what's the difference?
10 million.
Yeah, but it's not your money, so. I mean, really, what's the difference if you're gonna go over the cap anyway? It's like
Because that's just 10 million closer to getting to that. They have those new stupid rules, and if he gets 40, it's going to be way harder to keep iHeart and sign new contracts for Randall. Like, it's going to get really, really
he's
hard
not
to
signing
keep the whole
for
team.
30, maybe 35. Somewhere within 35 to 40 range is where it's actually going to go, because you know what? The Knicks don't do it, someone else will.
I know. I'm just saying, like, if he signs for the max he can, it's going to be really hard to keep.
What would you rather do? Would you rather pay him $40 million a year or pay him nothing?
I mean, I guess you got to roll the dice because the Knicks are elite with him on the court.
Yeah, you got to pay when you have a guy that's going to be really help elevate you. You got to pay him.
What are they, like 15-2 when he plays? Like, it's insane.
Right. I mean, he's only had a plus minus. He's been crazy good. Clearly, the Knicks aren't quite that level. I mean, they fall back to reality if he kept playing every game. But you have to, like, I feel like this team just needs an offseason to reset. Get everyone healthy. Bring in some rookies. Bring in some extra players that, like, so the minutes can be not insane throughout the season. I don't blame. If anything, Tibbs has made this team so much better.
I know. The idea of waiting another 13 months to see what this team can do in the playoffs healthy, it's just so depressing. Like,
it's so depressing.
We might have to do the show monthly. Like, I don't know if I can do this again.
Well, the playoffs are starting very soon.
Great.
So the show's
that's the problem. The playoffs are starting very soon. They don't have half their team.
Well, the show basically ends. The weekly show ends when the playoffs end. So as long as the playoffs keep going, like, we'll be happy to do the show. Base Nick fan writes on Twitter, is McBride better than IQ?
Yes.
He's not better than IQ.
I think
Are you
so.
really? I mean, people keep saying this on Twitter. McBride is awesome, but IQ is pretty awesome also.
Yeah, this is not a knock against IQ. I think McBride's a little bit better on defense, and he's more consistent on offense. IQ can have bigger games on offense, but McBride has been way more consistent. IQ's never been consistent on offense.
No, he's been more consistent this year and last year. This first 2 years he was very inconsistent. He's been getting more consistent.
Not as consistent as McBride.
No, you should. Toronto, he's been pretty consistent.
Small sample size.
McBride, so RJ and IQ have been much more consistent in Toronto, while they're consistently losing. They don't win any games.
RJ and IQ are amazing, incredible players. They just can't win any games with those two guys on the court.
So I had a nostalgia moment. I don't know if it's quite a nostalgia moment, but I saw someone had made a clip of all the takes when the Knicks had signed Jalen Brunson. And there were a lot of clips there, people like just knocking this as like, Brunson's not that good. Why the Knicks overpaying and blah blah blah. And Brunson's been amazing. And I was like, it'd be fun to listen to. I'd like to hear a Knicks like season preview from the 22-23 season. So basically, not this season, but last season.
Mm-hmm.
You think that'd be a fun listen?
Sure.
Yeah. So I went back. I'm not gonna call out call it. I don't want to insult any podcast by calling it out. But I just picked a popular Knicks podcast. Went back and listened to their season preview from it was like I think it was from like late September, October in 22, and it was just very funny to listen to because everything they said in the show was ended up being complete, and we are often wrong, but everything they talked about was completely wrong. It was kind of amazing. The show starts off with them talking about like, you know, it's going to really suck this season. Evan Fournier is going to probably play like 40 minutes a game. There's no way you can get him off the court. Tibbs is locked in on his veterans, and he's going to play Evan Fournier way too much. We need less of Fournier. It's like, well, in 10 games, he'll never play for the Knicks again.
Right.
Then they go on. They're talking about at some point they talk about RJ, and they are like, RJ. I mean, beyond the offense, I think he's got a shot of winning Defensive Player of the Year, at least being all defensive player. I'm like, maybe one of the worst defensive players in the NBA. Okay. They also talk about Obi being really the key. Like Randall's coming off a bad year. He was coming off a bad year at that point, and like how Randall, you know, he's got to reduce his minutes, maybe make him a bench player. Obi is just the future of this team. It was just so funny. Every point they won him over, you're like, nope, that's not going to happen. It's just with the 2020 hindsight of this being literally everything they're saying being wrong.
We've been wrong before, but I'm happy to say we have never had an episode that inaccurate.
It was, and they did all the Tibbs stuff about how like Tibbs is like he's just like fixed. He doesn't experiment. He just plays the guys he wants to play, and like everyone plays too many minutes, and
the same.
He's set in his
same
ways.
tropes,
He'll never deviate. I'm like, they're like he might have to go. I'm like, actually, he's going to be up for Coach of the Year 2 years later.
So our email is nynickspodcast@gmail.com. Sam writes, after the heartbreaking loss against OKC, what do you guys think of an OG for Mikal Bridges trade? OG is amazing defensively and is a winner, but too injury prone and has the Kawhi mentality when it comes to injuries.
Would you do OG for Jalen Williams?
No, but I'd love to go back in time and tell Leon Rose to actually draft Jalen Williams.
Well, in fairness to Leon Rose, at that time when the draft came around, the Knicks really needed a 3-and-D. And Jalen Williams plays that position, so it was understandable why he wasn't drafted.
Right.
Right. In fairness, in theory they needed the money to get Jalen Brunson, and Brunson's been amazing. So I think if it was OG for Jalen Williams, I might. I don't think I would do for Mikal Bridges, though I would love the Villanova. I might do him for Jalen Williams.
And Jalen
Is that
Williams
crazy?
No, I don't know. I'm so nervous about his injuries. It's like,
I mean, that gives you the reason. I think Mikal Bridges is a hell of a defender. I think OG's a better defender. Jalen Williams, I just think Jalen Williams, he's like, what is he, 22 or 23 years old, and he's this goddamn good?
yeah, he's going to be an all-star in a year or two.
Yeah, so he is so good that I'm like, I would just make any bet on his potential. The dude he's shooting like 54% from the field. He's a great defender. OKC is my pick for winning the title this year. That's my pick for winning the title.
I mean, it's just crazy because they have like Giddey and Chat and Williams is better than those guys. Like, came out of nowhere.
The Knicks played them really well. Their issue is they don't really have enough big men. So they'll have problems on the boards against teams. But like, I don't know. I feel like they might make a crazy run this year in the playoffs.
That is it for our emails. Do we have Twitter questions?
Yeah, we have. I didn't get them all yet. Let me find that.
We're NY Knicks Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, and
Lazy Boy. By the way, so Lazy Boy writes, thoughts on becoming the 6th seed in order to go against Cleveland, Milwaukee, then Boston, assuming we can't become the 3rd seed.
It's a tough road, but
well, either way, you're kind of going to play the Bucks and the Celtics. So
yeah, I mean, the 4th seed would be Orlando. Yeah,
And
probably
then the Celtics,
Miami,
yeah.
Boston. So it's really, do you want to play Orlando or Cleveland? I wouldn't
I
mind
guess
going
for
into sixth because I feel like the Knicks are in Cleveland's head a little bit.
yeah,
So
and
I mean, that
and in
wouldn't be bad.
theory, iHeart and Mitch should be mostly healthy for the first round. And they were a gigantic problem for Cleveland that Cleveland has not fixed.
Yeah. And it looks like they're not breaking into the top three. So even if they finish fourth, that's like one home series against Orlando versus
You're up,
like
but
a road series. But it's Cleveland. Yeah.
you're up a game and a half on the Pacers, 2 games on the Heat, and you're tied. You're tied with the Magic for the fourth seed, but the Magic have the tiebreaker.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's reasonable to expect the Knicks to finish in sixth.
I don't know if also as far as first round matchups, if you're talking about Cleveland or Orlando, I don't know if one's such a better matchup. I guess if anything, I wouldn't mind the rematch with Cleveland.
Yeah, I think they're about equal teams. I really feel like the Knicks are in Cleveland's head.
Um, Also, Cobra writes, my thoughts. The Knicks should consider the possibility of Randall and OG not being available, even if they are eventually later on, and focus on making it work with the current roster. Mitchell is here, but he's not the Mitchell we know. That said, we lack other big men, and
Yep.
I mean, like it's nothing you can do. Like that, Josh Hart said it after the game. If those guys come back, that's a huge benefit. But like, we're gonna assume they're not coming back at this point.
Yeah.
He added so he added Mitchell is here, but he's not the Mitchell we know. That said, we lack big men other than iHeart. Our advantage is that we have Josh Hart rebounding like an animal. But last night we had a season low 30 rebounds. Wouldn't be a bad idea to bring up Sims and have his efforts purely on the boards when needed. Brunson looks tired. Luckily, Deuce has been pretty damn good as of late, regardless of some not so good games here and there. And the team's perimeter shooting has been a bit inconsistent. That said, the Knicks should continue to create plays in the paint. Boogie was hot last night, and we need more consistency from his end. Alec needs to do his damn job, and all in all, let's just forget about Randall and OG for now and make this work while hoping for a speedy return if they can come back. Can't rush it. Some ideas I saw thrown out. One idea someone's on Twitter threw out the idea of, and this wasn't from Cobra, but start Bogdanovich, and maybe he'll feel more comfortable in a starting role. You'll get better production out of him.
Instead of Hart.
I guess, or I guess instead of Deuce, it's either, I guess instead of Deuce or Hart, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I guess it's start him instead of Hart, and then bring Hart off the bench. I guess it doesn't really matter because Hart's going to play 45 minutes a game.
Well, if Hart misses next game, we might see Bogdanovich start.
The other idea was put Precious back in the starting lineup and put Deuce back on the bench. But I don't love that idea. I mean, I think the team seems the lineup. I like Deuce in the starting lineup.
Deuce has been very good.
Not line. I mean, the trouble is really with this team is that obviously being shorthanded, a lot has to go right. You need Jalen Brunson not being allowed to be beaten up on the other team and can't be like so tired. Dante's threes have to go in. Deuce has to play well, and some other guys have to contribute.
Yeah, I think it's more lately. Only like one or two guys have been good. Like this shorthanded, you need 3 or 4 guys to really be on, and it's tough to do that nightly when you're this shorthanded. And it's a trickle down effect because when you're this shorthanded, you are playing more minutes for your guys that are healthy, and then they're more likely to get run down. So the Knicks haven't been healthy since November. It's
I mean,
April.
but we were surviving well without Mitch.
Yeah,
Mitch
but
is awesome.
it put a little bit of extra pressure on iHeart, and then his Achilles started bothering him. It is like a waterfall effect.
Right. I mean, the positives of it, I mean, if there can be positives, is that we found out just how good iHeart is, and now he a fully healthy Mitch and a fully healthy iHeart, I go with a fully healthy iHeart over Mitch.
I mean, I would love to just have them both next season and
Yeah.
48 minutes of hell for other opposing centers.
Oh, that's my plan. My goal would just be if you can work out with the salary, just sign Ihart and keep Mitch and just keep them both. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a tough situation though. You're right. That and other positives are like we found out just how good Deuce is, which we wouldn't have found it out without the injuries, and I guess the trades also. The Knicks reduced their depth with all their trades they made, or really just like when you traded basically. I mean, in theory, you could have RJ and an IQ still here, but the team would just be worse.
I don't think they reduced their depth.
I guess it's more the injuries than anything else. You're right.
I mean, like fully healthy, you have Mitch, McBride, Hart coming off the bench. That's like 3 starting level guys coming off the bench. And then you still have Bogdanovich and Burks, like if you need to go a little deeper. That's crazy depth.
How do you think the team looks if they don't make any trades?
You mean if they bring this team back next year?
No. They just didn't. I'm going back. Let's say they never make the OG trade. They never make the. They never trade for Boggs. They don't make any moves throughout the whole season, and we have RJ and IQ still here. And
yeah. So I think they're a good team. Like they made it to the second round last season, and I think they would be a good team again, but I feel like that's kind of where they cap out. Whereas you're taking some risks with OG's injury history, but I think their ceiling is significantly raised with this squad. So I think it was a trade you had to make because the goal is not to make the second round every year. And so I agree with the trade. It's just right now, the Knicks might even be able to have been able to survive the OG injury if Randall didn't go down as well. Like, it's just 2 huge injuries back to back.
And if you look at where the season would have been, you would have still had IQ facing the problem of like, are you going to pay him $25 million a year to do the same things McBride and Dante already do?
Right.
And so that would have been going all like it's one thing to give $40 million to OG and be like he does something different than the rest of the roster does. Versus overpaying IQ to do what other guys already do on the roster.
Very good point. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, that was I'm done now with the season. I made one point where Jay says a very good point, and that's the high point of the show of the season for me. I'll see you guys next season.
Is that a show first?
First time you've ever said that's a good point. I've never had Jay say that to me. I appreciate the praise.
Look at that.
Anyway, so I'm not going to say anything else the rest of it. Go, Jay. I'm going to do the George Costanza, the Vegas thing. Okay, see you guys later.
400 episodes in, we finally did it. But yeah, you're right because now they could pay because you were paying RJ $25 million, and that we just kept saying that was an upgradable spot on the roster. And I know he's been playing much better in Toronto. Still don't think that's sustainable, and I think he's too streaky for that team to have a super high ceiling with that team as constructed.
If you look at it this way, RJ getting $25 million, IQ would have probably cost $25 million. That's $50 million. If you paid OG 40, and you pay McBride $1. Combined, it's less than what you would have paid RJ and IQ.
Yeah.
And the dollar is actually what McBride signed for.
Yeah, I mean, I would still take OG and McBride over IQ and RJ.
Yeah, I don't think
it's not a knock on the IQ and RJ. Like, it's just, I think their ceiling's higher with the other two.
I don't think a lot of people know this, but McBride's money, the contract, his $13 million is actually in pesos. So it's actually worth less than $1. But whatever, it's a good deal, and McBride's happy.
Yeah. So I think they made the right move still. I still think they also made the right move with Bogdanovich and Burks, trading Grimes. Grimes is out for the season. Bogdanovich and Burks haven't been good so far, but I do think they're better. Like, the Knicks are better off with those guys. Bogdanovich had a good game against Miami. He's showed flashes here and there. I think what we saw against Miami is the way he normally plays. You're a little more timid joining a new team and a new system. I think he's getting there, and I hope come playoff time He's going to play more like he did against Miami because it looks like he's going to get a lot of minutes because the Knicks aren't healthy. God damn it.
In fairness, so so I wasn't like calling for. I don't think a lot of people called for the Brogdon Burks trade, but we all kind of liked it at the time.
Bogdanovich.
Do you remember? I don't remember who you were calling for. But I'll tell you the guy I was calling for at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The number one guy I wanted was Malcolm Brogdon, who hasn't played in the second half this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that would not have been a good trade.
Brogdon's also an injury-prone player. He averages about 50 games a season. So
The only good thing about getting Brogdon, and this is the one good point, his injury is also his elbow. So him and OG would have a lot to talk about.
mm-hmm. Elbow bros.
Do you remember who you calling for at the deadline? Is there anyone in particular you wanted?
I either wanted Brogdon or Murray because I didn't know we'd have the McBride coming out party.
Yeah, fair point.
And it turns out the Knicks front office, who gets to see McBride a lot more often than we do, knew that he would come out eventually. So
It's weird that like the Knicks Twitter wouldn't know more than the guys who are seeing them every day.
it turns out the guys who work with them every day and see them in practice do know more than random people on Twitter.
Do you, now that you see how good Dante has been and how good McBride has been, do you wish in retrospect the Knicks had traded for Murray?
I mean, they are the 10th seed.
Yeah, they can make a run. You never know.
If
As long as you have a shot.
If they win against Detroit tonight, they will bump the Nets out of the play-in tournament.
The Nets are in the play-in tournament?
No, they're in 11th. I mean, they'll officially eliminated for the season.
Oh, okay. I was like, holy crap.
No,
they
no,
even get in.
no. They're mathematically eliminated tonight if the Hawks win, or if the Nets lose, and the Nets are also losing to Indiana right now. So it looks like the Nets will be out officially.
So the next, we'll probably record next Wednesday. The next four games are Sacramento, Chicago, Milwaukee, Chicago. Will we be happy, sad, angry? What will it be like next episode? Tell me what's going to happen in these next four games, Jay.
We're going to be dejected. I'd still say 2-2, but I don't know. This whole new ref situation, I don't know what to expect going into each game now.
We're not calling fouls unless the NBA likes you.
It's just weird. The Knicks don't have enough crap to deal with now. They got to deal with this every single night.
I mean, in theory, calling less touch fouls and calling the games a little bit like being like letting guys be a little more physical contact is better. The scores were getting out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird how it only seems, and I guess it affects everyone, but it seems to affect the Knicks more than anyone else when the Knicks play.
I just want to see it called even. I don't want to see touch fouls on one side and hacks on the other not called. It's just call it even. I don't care.
Jalen Brunson's the foul merchant, even though the stats or nothing, your eye test and the stats don't back it up. But, the national media said stuff.
Yeah.
So Sacramento, 2-2. Okay. Hopefully next show will be a lot more positive.
Yeah. Sorry about the lack of enthusiasm, but 3 straight losses, 2 of which were pretty shady. It's really hard to get excited.
Jay, the Knicks are not raising prices next year. I don't know if you heard. They're keeping prices the same small fortune they are now.
Oh, good. We're just going to keep it at ludicrous level.
Yeah. We're not raising above ludicrous level. So now you can go, you and your family of 4 can go to a Knicks game for the cost of a small house in the suburbs.
Can we?
But not going to raise it.
Can we get the cost of a Budweiser down from $24? I mean, like everybody wants to have a drink or two at the game. Like you're going to add like $50 to the price for like 2 Bud Lights. It's insane.
Yeah. It is insane. That's I guess a good way to control fans is to make the drinks insanely expensive.
But the food too. It's like, oh, you want a burger? That's like $19.
Well,
Kind of takes the fun out of it.
The fans are they've reacted to these high costs by packing the stadium every game and paying for all these things.
I know.
So I don't think I think the prices will only go up.
Of course.
It's New York.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're out for this week.
All right. if you're still listening, thank you. Just like, yeah. You know what? Email us, nyknickspodcast@gmail.com, or message us on our socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, at nyknickspodcast. We're also at nyknickspodcast on YouTube and Crumpled Bacon on Twitch. Give us reasons to not be dejected. How about that?
Also, if Jay, if Jay would love to play Words with Friends with you, if people are still playing that game, so just message him. He's up for playing it with you.
Just I love if anything, if there's one thing I like is finding my personal accounts and giving me unsolicited messages. So do that, and check out our comedy podcast, The Brink of Sanity, brinkofsanityshow.com, or just Brink of Sanity podcast on iTunes. And
Also, send him your favorite post from Pinterest. Jay likes that.
or if you want to send me an email explaining what Pinterest is, you could do that.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, it's been a show. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye, everybody. It's all over. Goodbye. It's time to go.
This is the end.
Say goodbye. You better go away. I'm gonna leave you. It's the end. Goodbye. Goodbye. Just leave me alone. Feels so good to say goodbye. I'm sick and tired and I'm saying goodbye. Goodbye, girl. Goodbye, 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 everybody.
Do you know that the I guess the media, I guess the social media app also Nextdoor?
Yeah.
Are you on there?
I was. That it spams the crap out of you. Even if you say I don't want no notifications, it like still haunts you.
I can't get rid of like I'll get emails from it every once in a while and
Yeah.
like look what all your friends on Nextdoor are saying. Nextdoor should just be it should be renamed Complaints with Friends.
I mean, I joined it just to see all the weird complaints people that are like, there was a car on the street that I don't recognize. Somebody should investigate, or like insane stuff like that. It's funny, but yeah, the notifications were out of control. I had to delete it.
Right. You join just to see what's going on in your area, but you're like, what the fuck? It's just old people complaining about shit. That's all it really is.
Yeah.
The entire like
But they complain about the most insane
there was a
stuff.
rabbit on my lawn.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's a picture of the rabbit. I can't believe this is going on. The town's got to look into it.
It's funny. It really is. Yeah, the complaints are like off the wall.
Yeah.
There's hooligans. I know it.
I should go on there and be like, yeah, speaking of that car parked on Main Street, the Knicks, when are they going to get their players back? This is ridiculous. The town's got to look into this.
Just go next door, just bitch about the Knicks all the time.
All times.
You know,
Yeah. Louis is like, I thought my steak was undercooked. Kind of like how the Knicks lineup is undercooked without OG.
these I went to Rite Aid and the prices are really high. High like the prices of beer at the Knicks games. All right.
I find some people in our town who just never change their ways. Like Tibbs is. He just doesn't change his ways with like lineups.
Seriously though, the next door is like, you realize how many crazy people you live among.
It's such garbage. Yeah, it really. At first, I thought it was gonna be interesting. Every once in a while, so I'll get like the email notifications, and it's almost like clickbait because they'll give you part of what the complaint is,
Yeah.
and at least the first part will sound reasonable.
Mhm.
You're like, because it also will just go like it'll like hit and run accident, and you're like, shit, there was a hit and run accident in my town. But when they say my town, they mean within a 5,500-mile radius. So it's like, oh, okay, so that's Buffalo. I'm 5 hours from here. Could you fucking just give me something? Like, I want something to happen to my neighborhood. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called next door, not just like randomly close.
Yeah. I also said I want no notifications, and there's like, nah, we're gonna harass the shit out of you. Actually, you're gonna get all the notifications.
Yeah.
Or then I get an email. They'd be like, you have 20 unread notifications. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want them.
That's the email I just got. Yeah. I'm like, are people advertising in this site? Like, is there making money? Can't this go bankrupt faster? Or is anyone gonna really miss it if next door is gone?
I mean, you could sell some stuff on there.
Okay, there now Jay's like, well, actually, I use it a lot.
I mean, I did sell stuff on there, but
I heard this site's great for selling. I heard the Knicks sold Grimes for Bogdanovich and Burks on this site. I'm just gonna put a lot of Knicks thick stuff on there.
might as well. I mean, if other people are gonna post like, I'm not happy with the color of the flowers on my block, or my neighbor's lawn is a little bit long.
We had a neighbor. I don't know them well, but they wanted to make their fence like 6 feet instead of 5 feet, and like the town variance is like five. The town is five. It's like 5 feet. So you have to get like a variance to like go higher. So they have to have a hearing to discuss it. And he said the guy was like, I was talking to the dad about it. He said like in the hearing, people are complaining about shit that has nothing to do with it. They're like, I don't like the color of the fence. He's like, you have no say. It's not your fence. It's just the height.
God, people are the worst.
And they were complaining about the color white. They're like, it's too shiny. It's like, what the fuck? It's white.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. I'm going to close the chat room, and we'll be back next Wednesday.